once again, my friends and my fellow Star Trek fans. Well, I'd like to welcome you to another video, and today's video isn't going to be about this lady. It's going to be about, well, it is going to be about her, but it's going to be after her refit. We're going to go to Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock, and the very, very unfortunate demise of the USS Enterprise NCC-1701 refit. So when it comes to Diamond Select, they have a few of the translucent plastic pieces. They had the green, translucent green, which was a Defiant, and I showed you that. Today I'm going to show you the translucent orange, which is the Final Flight Enterprise, and eventually I'll show you the cloaked Romulan ship again. And I'm redoing all these videos because I'm showing them to you in 4K this time. I think they look a lot better. So why don't we go over and we're going to take a look at the USS Enterprise NCC-1701 as she's given the order to self-destruct above Genesis, and she finally burns up in the atmosphere. So my friends, I present to you the Star Trek Starship Legends from Diamond Select. This is the USS Enterprise NCC-1701 from Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And you can see Captain Kirk on the bottom right-hand corner, as usual, in the Starship Legends releases. Looking at the top, you can see a picture of the model, pretty much the same that was on the front. And on the bottom, you can see the year, 2017 release, CBS Studios. When we look at the sides, you can see Star Trek, the Final Flight Enterprise NCC-1701 from The Search for Spock. And this one has the regular seal, but when we look at the other side, you're going to notice it's the same, but that's where the seal is that makes it show the value or how rare it is. This one is one of 450, and they didn't do this for the Reliant, the Defiant. So I think the Defiant was one of 200 or 250, I'm not sure. But this one says Final Flight USS Enterprise NCC-1701. This is number 1 of 450. Now this is not actually number 1. They don't do it that way. It's just 1 of 450. So when you look at the back, you can see Diamond Select, things that they can show you that you can get. I've shown you the tricorder, the communicator, the Enterprise. I'm going to redo the Enterprise because, again, I want to do it in 4K, and the Klingon Bird of Prey. I've shown you a couple of those from Diamond Select. The Enterprise, and this is limited to 450 pieces from Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. And you can see that iconic quote, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And that's when Dr. McCoy looks at him and says, "What you had to do, turn death into a fighting chance to live." Of course, they steal the Enterprise to go back and get Mr. Spock's body off of Genesis. And it's against orders, so they have to actually steal the Enterprise. And once they're there, they meet a renegade Klingon ship, Commander Kruge. He's trying to get the secret of Genesis, and ultimately the Enterprise gets destroyed by Captain Kirk's command. So a little bit of the information. Again, the top is "My God, Bones, what have I done?" The final mission of the original USS Enterprise NCC-1701 was completely unauthorized and ended in near disaster, traveling to the planet Genesis, an unstable world created out of gas and dust by the Genesis device. The Enterprise, piloted by a skeleton crew, encountered a Klingon bird of prey. The Klingon commander Kruge sought to claim the secret of Genesis for the Klingon Empire and disabled the undermanned Enterprise in a brief battle. But before a Klingon boarding party could beam over, Captain Kirk and his command team trigger the ship's auto-destruct sequence and beam down to the planet's surface. where they watched the flaming hull of their beloved Enterprise plummet into the atmosphere. And that's even painful to read. You can see does not contain electronics. So that's a look at everything box-wise. So let's go ahead and we're going to take her out. And again, this one does not have any electronics, nor does it have any paperwork. Let's see if that'll stay like that. So you can see, kind of like the Defiant was, she's in the plastic tray. So let me, bear with me 1 minute. So we're going to get her out of the tray. Look at that. And like the Defiant, we have the clear colored stand. All right, that's everything with the plastic tray. Okay, so let's take a look at everything. I think it's interesting that they give you, so again, this is modeled after the Enterprise. That Enterprise contains electronics. Like I showed you in the with the USS Defiant, there are no electronics in this. However, it does have a compartment with a screw for the battery compartment. And they actually give two for this because you can swap the bottom out and put the stand. So when you put the stand plate in, put the screw back in, and then you'll be able to put it on the stand. Let me show you real quick how to go about putting the stand together. It's really, really simple. Just like the USS Defiant, you get that shark's fin kind of stand, and it goes in on the side, and you can see there's a little channel for it to go into, and just like that, the stand is put together. And we have the little piece in the plastic that has a little ball, where the little ball goes in that little circle. I'm not crazy about these stands, so I'm not going to take this out, and I'm not going to put it on the stand for you. I'm just going to show you guys the ship, and you can see the scorch marks. And the reason she's orange is because when she went Planet Genesis, after the front explodes, she ends up burning up in the atmosphere, and she has that awful glow from the friction that's burning her up in the atmosphere. You can see some of the scorch marks on the, this would be the starboard nacelle. See in the front, the pylon, nacelle pylon. Looking down at the side of the secondary hull, you can see more of the scorch marks. You can see the Starfleet insignia. You can see the little docking port on the side of the saucer pylon. Going around, you can see the shuttle bay, the little observation lounge on top. Coming around to the side, looking at the port side, you can see the port side nacelle. You get the registry markings in the back, some scorch marks. And the nacelle pylon, you can see the secondary hull on the port side on the bottom. Again, we get the scorch marks. And right over here, around where the docking port is, Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, that's where the Reliant actually shot and ended up doing a lot of damage along that part of the ship. Again, looking at the underneath, you can see where the screw comes out with a plate, and you can swap out the other plate where it's got the opening where you can put the stand in. Coming around to the front where the deflector dish is, and you can see the photon torpedo launcher. And looking at the bottom of the primary hull, you can see her registry markings. And on the back where it says Enterprise, around the sensor dome. And looking at the top, the primary hull in the back, let me get you close, you can see the impulse decks, the impulse engines, the impulse crystal, going up to the back of the island where we got the officers lounge and C deck, B deck, and the little docking port from, remember when Mr. Spock docked in Star Trek The Motion Picture. And we've got the bridge itself, and then there are more scorch marks. So let me tell you about the scorch marks on the front. When they give the command to destroy the Enterprise, the auto-destruct, what ends up happening is the Klingons beam at the moment that Captain Kirk and his party leave. So they beam onto the ship, and they're walking around, and they notice that there's no one around, so they're getting a little suspicious. So when they finally get to the bridge, they inform Commander Kruge that it must be run by computer because it was the only thing that was actually speaking. At that point, Kruge goes, "Speaking, let me hear," and you hear 5, 4, 3, and that's when Kruge realizes he's about to lose his crew because they set the auto-destruct. So he yells for them to get out of there, and by that time the explosion happens. It's too late, and we see the bridge explode. Everything off the bridge. So the computers, all the instruments, and everything are gone. Then the ship you can see her start to lose orbit. As she comes around, you can see the outer skin of the ship starts to almost like burning with embers, just like burning away, and you can start to see the inside of the ship. And then all of a sudden, the whole front of the ship just explodes. And you're just sitting there dumbstruck like I was. I couldn't believe it. And after it explodes, the ship kind of goes down, totally loses the ability to sustain an orbit, and she just goes down, and she's pulled into the gravitational pull, and we see her just burn up. And it's at that point where you just see a ball of flame going through the sky, where you got Mr. Scott, Dr. McCoy, Captain Kirk. I'm trying to remember if Mr. Sulu was with them, Mr. Chekhov. But they look up, and that's when Captain Kirk says, "My God, Bones, what have I done?" And Dr. McCoy in turn says, "What you had to do, turn death into a fighting chance to live." But that is the end of our beloved NCC-1701 USS Enterprise. Now they would replace her with the USS Yorktown, NCC-1717, would be refit out and be presented to them as the Enterprise A. But this video is on the Enterprise herself, the original. This is from the Star Trek III, The Search for Spock. And like I did with the USS Defiant, I want to show you the internal workings. So we're going to put the lights off, and I want to put a little bit of the light through it. So let me block out all the light. Let me open up the drawers and check out how cool this is going to be. So we've got the Enterprise. You can see the bridge, B and C decks. You can see all that damage that was forming. You can see back where the impulse crystals are. into the nacelles, showing you guys the inner workings. I'll show you guys the secondary hull. And you can see the inner workings of the port nacelle. Into the back. And let me see if I can do it that way for the deflector dish. Looks pretty cool. Finally back to the front. Let me see if I can get a front shot. That looks pretty cool. And we go back to the front. It just makes me so sad when I think about what she went through, her destruction. But anyway, let me put the lights back on. So when it comes to, again, with Diamond Select, they did a couple with the translucent clear plastic. Now, the same thing with this model, or like the USS Defiant that I showed you. That Defiant was the mold for the Enterprise with the electronics. This one is the same way. This is the mold for the Enterprise refit with the electronics. And eventually I'm going to reshoot and show you guys the Klingon, excuse me, not the Klingon, the Romulan bird of prey that's fully cloaked. And that one's pretty wild. So I'm going to go through all my old videos and I'm going to redo them in 4K so you guys can have a better view of them. You can see them better. So my friends, I hope you enjoyed this quick video. And until my next video, take care. Thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you guys soon.